Welcome to episode 29 of the Superpowered Fancast. This is Darren. Now, normally I would bury the lead on an episode and start talking about other things to kind of lead into it, but I don't think I'm going to do that with this episode just because I had such an amazing time talking to my guests on this episode. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started on it. Now, just to tell you who they are and what we talked about, my guests for this episode are Bill Motz and Bob Roth, who are two of the creators of the Disney XD series Lego Star Wars, The Freemaker Adventures. Now, if you haven't been watching the show, you should. It's an amazingly fun show. It's a great family show that takes place in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So you do get some really great moments with characters from the show, with characters from the movies, and it's really fun. It's about the Freemakers, who are a family of scavengers who build and sell starships from the debris that they find in battles. So you can, so you get that perspective of, maybe they go to Hoth and pick up some parts from some fallen AT-ATs, or you go to Endor, I guess, after the rest of the season. But it's a really fun show, and Bill and Bob are really, really nice guys, and I really want to thank them again for taking the time to talk to me and tell me about the show and answer my questions. And as an animation fan, Bill Motz and Bob Roth I'm fans of their work, just simply as both writers and producers. Like, just their body of work spans a lot of things that I enjoyed. Like they've written for Disney for a long time. So they wrote for Darkwing Duck. They wrote for the Aladdin animated series. They wrote for the Hercules animated series. They wrote for Buzz Lightyear, Star Command. They wrote for Kim Possible, shows like Shaolin Showdown, Monsters versus Aliens, Phineas and Ferb, the Penguins of Madagascar. Like I could go on. And they wrote for like Breadwinners, and just really great shows that families enjoy, that are really funny. So Bill and Bob agreed to talk to me about the second season, and the second season that's wrapped, and hopefully they'll get a third, because it's a really great show, and I would encourage everyone to watch it. And I also want to thank everyone who's been listening. I listened to the last episode with Nick Antosca, and the episode before that with Michael Dorn from Star Trek Next Generation. I'm a big fan of everyone that I get to talk to, and I'm enjoying the fact that I get the opportunity to do so, and I thank you all for listening as well. So and once again, you can read articles and find me online at Superpowered Fans, where you can find me on Twitter. You can go to my website, superpoweredfancast.com. You can read articles and stories I've written on that website, as well as Geeks Worldwide, which I'm a part of, the Geeks Worldwide Network, at www.thegww.com. So definitely check that out. And I guess with no further ado, this is my interview with Bill Motz and Bob Roth from Lego Star Wars, The Freemaker Adventures on Disney XD. Check it out.
I miss it so much. Sing along, Bob. Someone's here. Hello. Hi. We're about to do a phone interview. Can we chat with you later?
Okay, in about half hour. That's tiny.
Okay, Darren, you're on with Bill and Bob.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan, not only of Lego Star Wars Freemaker's Adventures, but your entire career. Like I've been like on just like an animation high for for weeks now. Just looking forward to having this conversation with you guys.
Well,
fantastic.
Thank
That's
you
so
very
nice to
much.
hear.
Thank you. And yeah,
We're excited to talk to you.
That's very flattering. And so, by the way, introduction-wise, I'm Bill.
And I'm Bob.
Yes.
So I know you probably have answered this question before, but just for me and for those who may not know, like you both have such a long history working together, and for Disney, just kind of going back to the beginning, like how did Lego Star Wars Freemakers come about? Like what was the kind of the process that got you guys interested in telling this story?
So for us, the very start of our relationship, our friendship that then became a professional relationship, started in 1990 when Bob and I met at a USC summer production workshop that we both signed up to do because that's where George Lucas went to school.
Right.
we were hoping like some of the magic of George would wear off on us. And as I think it was the first day even, there was some sort of a mixer with the kids and all the students, and the question of, of course, what was your favorite film, and that kind of thing came up, and obviously Bob and I both said very loudly, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And anyway, that began a conversation.
Let's be best friends for life.
Yeah, pretty much that's how that went. So we kind of bonded over our mutual affection for the franchise and our love all things of it. And anyway, that we made a short film together, and then ended up
Bumbled our way into a career in animation.
Yeah, so we started professionally working, I guess, officially Halloween of 1991, and then have been working for a variety of studios since. And then Freemakers was we kind of got wind of the show coming about in, I guess, 2014. Right?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell that bit?
Now here's I'm trying to tell which version of the story to tell, the super extended mix or what. We were in our offices at Nickelodeon where we were working on a show called Breadwinners at the time, and got a text from Bob Schooley, who's currently one of the Mark McCorkle and Bob Schooley creators of
Kim Possible.
Kim Possible. They ran Penguins in Madagascar. We were on. They're currently doing Big Hero 6, which is going to be fantastic. They're our best friends and our mentors. We got a text from Bob Schooley. He said, "We just recommended you for a Star Wars show," which we went, "What?" So we fumbled my phone, going, "Text quick! What do you mean by that?"
Yeah.
And it turns out, one of the executives had come to them and said, "Do you know anybody who would be good for a Lego Star Wars show?" And they said, "Well, Bill and Bob eat, drink, and sleep Star Wars." And then same time, Carrie Beck at Lucasfilm had gone to
Henry Gilroy.
Henry Gilroy, who pretty much had the same conversation, saying Bill Motz and Bob Roth would be fantastic. So we still owe Henry a lunch for this, a very expensive lunch. And at Lego, they went to Michael Price, who did the Yoda Chronicles and Droid Tales and all the previous Lego Star Wars specials, of which Freemaker Adventures stands on the shoulders. And they had the same conversation where they're like, "Can you recommend somebody to run a Lego Star Wars series?" And he said, "Oh, you guys really ought to talk to Bill Motz and Bob Roth." So all three companies involved were hit with this tidal wave of people mentioning our names.
So then they met us and were, woefully disappointed.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So then at that point, we just started, pestering whoever we could to find out what was going on. And, these things take a lot of time. Months went by of us just going, we want to do this, we're ready, tell us what the details are. And then at Comic-Con, 2014 was it?
Yeah, it was 2014.
We were at a lousy Comic-Con party. It was in a basement. It was like you were shoulder to shoulder. It was muggy. The air conditioning wasn't working.
It felt like the ceiling was like 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
so it's like
I'm a short guy, and I felt like I could touch the ceiling. And we ran into the Disney executive, and he'd had a little bit too much of the warm beer. So we're like, great, we can pump him for information. And he sort of told us what they were looking for, which was they want something that's Lego Star Wars, that is inclusive of the entire Star Wars saga, set in the original trilogy, and that was all they had. Original characters. They wanted original characters.
Uh-huh.
And, he shouted that not only was this party muggy and crowded, but it was also incredibly loud. So he shouted that in my ear.
In fact, I had to ask him after the party.
I had to translate for Bill.
What did he say? I couldn't get it.
So once we got that information, we're like, let's get the hell out of this party. We left. We were going to go grab dinner because I don't know if you've ever been to San Diego Comic-Con, but you want to, every night you want to sit down with a buddy and just go, oh my God, did you see that thing on the floor? And did you go to this panel? And all these crazy things happened. So we decided we were going to go grab dinner and just sort of decompress from the con and the party and all that. And on the way, the 3-block walk, we sort of had the initial inspiration for what would become the Freemakers.
Yeah, well, specifically, Bob says, as we're just about to get to the restaurant, he says, I know what the show is. And I'm like, what show? The show we just heard about show? And he's like, yes. And it started with the idea of
family of scavengers.
Yeah, because, and this is, of course, before we knew anything about Episode 7, so we didn't know about Rey and the whole scavenging thing that was happening there.
We might not have pitched it if we had.
Yeah, but we were thinking about our Lego kits, and because
one of the magical things about Lego is, you can build a TIE fighter, and then, your jerky friend comes over and playing with it breaks it, and you're like, oh, my TIE fighter's broken. You can put it back together as a TIE fighter, or you can take the wings and snap them onto your X-Wing or whatever, and
just make something completely.
You can make uglies, and that sort of that was the initial inspiration, that Lego and Star Wars are sort of tied in this perfect way of, you can scavenge your toys and make new toys and new ships. Mm-hmm. And also the other meta part of it was, family, that we wanted to do a story about a family in the Star Wars universe. Because that's what Star Wars is about, both in the text, it's about the Skywalker family. And then it's also, it has meta meaning that, Star Wars is to be experienced with families. It certainly was for me. I can go on for hours talking about all the memories I have of Star Wars tied to each one of my family members, both from when I was a kid to now as an adult raising my sons.
And of course, Lego is that same kind of experience.
Lego is exactly the same.
I remember building as a kid, with my family, and then with my own kids, building kits with them. It often is sort of handed down from parent to kid.
Yeah.
So it just felt like such a, no pun intended, a great fit. Like it really clicked.
It really clicked. So yeah, that's the that's how the long answer of how it all came about.
So then we had to sit on that for quite some time because nobody was ready yet to hear from us.
Right.
And then we finally got to, I think, begin that conversation late that fall. And then officially after, because of course we weren't the only people that they were talking to about it.
Sometime around before Christmas.
Yeah.
Right up to Christmas, they decided they wanted to go with our pitch, and they wanted us to be the people running the show.
And of course we were beyond excited and exceptionally
best
flattered.
Christmas, best Christmas gift I could have ever been given. So.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that absolutely leads me into the next series of questions I had, because I enjoy the family aspect of the series, and I have two boys myself, and they love both Lego and Star Wars. So anything Lego Star Wars they absolutely love, and they love Freemaker Adventures. But one of the things I was going to ask, and this is like just a Star Wars fan question, is like what do you feel are some of like what have been some of the unique challenges you face working on a series set in Star Wars canon in that time period between Empire and Jedi? Like, what kind of challenges do you kind of, from a story perspective, do you run into?
Well, I don't know if the actual setting is where the challenge is. The setting and time actually come. Like we were the ones who said it should be between Empire and Jedi, just because we knew we didn't want to go beyond Jedi. We wanted to still have that galactic conflict going on.
Yeah, we wanted Vader and the Emperor.
Yeah, we wanted Vader, we wanted the Emperor, and we wanted to have his access to let our characters run around as many battle sites, former battle sites, as we could. So it's like, great, we're going to push right up to the edge of Return of the Jedi. And in the second season, actually go into Return of the Jedi. Spoilers if you haven't watched.
Yeah. Which, by the way, was something we had always knew we would eventually go to.
Yeah. But the challenges come from working in, there's lots of talk online about, well, this show isn't canon, it doesn't count. Well, yes, but that doesn't mean we get to ignore the canon. We both at Lucasfilm's insistence and our own, we want to make sure that this is a show that could easily fit into the canon if it had to.
Yeah, in a sense, if you drop the studs off the characters, could essentially these...
And that's the way we think of the stories. These are stories of real human characters running around the Star Wars universe. And then once we've got the story, mapped out, we take a step back and go, what can we do to accentuate the Lego humor of it? But anyway, getting back to the original question, the challenges don't come from the time period. The challenges come from working in this vast universe where there are dozens, maybe hundreds of other stories simultaneously being creted, and you've got
comic books, games,
movies,
other
TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we there's what we call the Carrie Beck smile because
we're only privy to our little piece,
right? And
only what we need to know.
That's all they're going to show us. And by the way, we when we started, we said, don't tell us anything we don't need to know. We don't want to know anything we don't need to know because we're fans first and foremost, right?
Yeah, so we want to enjoy
right
Rebels and the movies, as fans.
So. We get the Carrie Beck smile when we stumble into something that somebody else is doing, and she can't tell us why you can't do it. She just says, "Oh, you want to find Luke's lightsaber?"
Yeah, that was hilarious. I remember,
smile.
They're salvaging around the old Death Star debris, and they find Luke's lightsaber.
We proposed Ben's lightsaber.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and she smiled, and we didn't realize until we saw The Force Awakens. It was like, it's because somebody is finding Luke's lightsaber. This is all a little too close. It's a little too, it's a little too close to something that was always going on. So we see these things play out again and again, and we can tell her smile. It's like, oh, we've stumbled into something somebody else is doing, right, Carrie? And she just smiles because she can't
tell us
tell us one way or the other. It's like, okay, that is neither confirm nor deny CIA sort of answer.
So that makes it very tricky, of course, to kind of work in that kind of dynamic. But it's also really fun.
Yes.
But I think also one of the biggest challenges we had was that Bob and I are such huge fans that it's a little intimidating. It's daunting. I mean, here's this thing that has spoken so deeply into our lives and shaped who we are, that when you actually get to play in this mythology, the most heartbreaking thing for us would be to do a really bad version.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, it was so daunting at one point. Even after we were offered the job, we briefly had so much self-doubt that we thought we might not do it. Mm-hmm. That after we'd gone through all that we were like, the fear of it was so overwhelming. Yeah, and thankfully, again, our friend Bob Scully and Mark McCorkle basically kicked our ass.
Yeah, they knocked our heads together like the Stooges and said, "What are you thinking? Get in there and do it."
Yeah, do it. You will, essentially, you will always regret it. Regret it if you don't take it.
Right.
And so I think that there's, I'm embarrassed to say that was even a life lesson that we had to learn at that point. But And I think you see a little bit of that even in the Freemaker show, of where we've sort of taken some of that fear question and brought that into the show. Is you got to face that, or you'll always regret the path not taken. So anyway, yeah, it was a little. So those are kind of the pieces that were tricky. But what was actually fun was realizing, hey, there's an opportunity here. Where would Luke be, or where would Leia be, and where's this happening?
How can we tie into moments from the saga that we know and love and cherish? So, yeah, it's been fun. I mean, once we actually sat down and started working on it, it all flowed about as easily as a TV show season can flow. There are of course going to be hiccups and stuff, but.
That's got to be daunting in and of itself.
Yeah, but it was once we sat down and were working, it felt like, oh, we were born to do this show.
Well, I mean, thank goodness we have the collective story team from Lucasfilm and Lego and Disney.
And then we don't give enough shout outs to our writing team. We had Ron Cursillo and Russ Carney, brilliant team of writers, John Banky,
James Bates,
and David Shane on the first season,
and then Nicole Stevenson.
Nicole Stevenson joined us for the second season for an episode, and all of them brought their A game and were just great people to work with, and such a great. The writing room was such a collaborative place. It was great.
Yeah. So it's nice when it comes together.
Yeah, and I had a question about that. Like, what is kind of like your philosophy when you're breaking a story in the writer's room? Like, what do you want, like, the writing staff to kind of have in their head when they're thinking about an episode?
It's interesting. The team we put together, and honestly, it was more happenstance than anything else, because some of these guys we'd never worked with before, but they all brought a little something different. Like Ron and Russ are great at going, I don't understand what the story we're telling is about. Tell me what this story's about. Let's get back to, that thread of making sure that the spine of the story is clear and definitive. John Banky is a great structuralist and great at looking at a story and then turning it upside down on its head and
making it the unexpected. Right. So, like, for example, just the whole Plume Striker Durpin dynamic. We grew out of John saying, who basically said, why does anybody ever want to be an officer that's promoted in the Empire? You're just going to get force choked.
Yeah, the higher you go up.
And that was such a funny and idea that it was like, oh my gosh, that's an awesome character. Right. The person who realizes, like,
and David is great at just throwing out quick, funny one-liners. And they all are, but
but they all have those kind of strengths.
So we had a great writers' room. The Lucasfilm Story Group is great to work with. We have great support from Lego in the form of Jason Kostler, Jake Blaze, and John McCormick. It was just a great time in that writers' room.
I mean, having Carrie and Josh Rhimes and Leland G. And Leland, of course, being the keeper of the holocron, who, gives it's the kind of thing of like, what if we went to a place that was sort of like this, and it'd be like, oh, well, in the expanded universe, we went to this planet, and the amazing thing is his encyclopedic knowledge of the universe is phenomenal, and so it'd be like, yes, perfect, that's great, or we need a ship that does XYZ or has this, or, anyway, it's all, like even the Ember Steel Blade thing in Season 2, just what kind of ship would have that, what kind of, what era would that be in, all of that was so amazing and fun. And then Carrie, is someone who looks at, I mean, of course, she knows much, much more of the larger, bigger picture things as well that's going on in Star Wars. And she's the one sometimes who can speak the hard truth to you. So you've gone down a road and you think that this is going to be awesome in the right way. And then you start getting in the weeds and it's a little bit trouble. And then sometimes she'll be like, you know what? maybe we should have done this. And
well,
gone this way.
Carrie is great at asking the right question at the right time. Like whenever we'd get stuck, in almost every episode, there's a point where you go, "Oops, we've gone down the wrong tunnel." She's great at asking the question that gets you back on track. And God bless her for that. But to answer your original question, which is what do I want? What do we want the writers to have in mind? Star Wars. I want them to think, the entire saga, to think about the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, Force Awakens, Rebels, Clone Wars, everything. Think about it. Think about the Ewok adventure and droids, and the Marvel comic books and everything else. Anything that think about
that can spark an idea.
Anything that inspires, that is related to Star Wars and Lego as well.
Pragmatically, by the way, just sort of how we would do it is that usually Bob and I would think through what we roughly think the season would be and how it would break into episodes.
Yeah, and some of those would be pretty detailed versions of what we thought the episodes would be. And then we'd present it to the writer's room, and they'd rip it all apart and give us one might be like, so much better.
Let's go to Cloud City.
And then, others were as simple as, we go to Cloud City, and maybe Cloud City falls. That might be kind of cool, right? And then over the next few hours, that team would crank out the most beautiful story.
So, and I think part of it for us too is there's the sort of the role of showrunner. I suppose you go in with what you think it should be, but I think one of the tricks
you got to stay open to something better, and you got to know what your pillars of the story are. You got to know that we've layered all these details on it, but what we're trying to accomplish is this. A writer's room can be a chaotic place because people can start all just talking all at once the ball really gets rolling.
Our script coordinator Danielle Witt's always writing, taking all the notes these people are crazy. Just to read the transcript, you just say they're all crazy.
So you gotta both have in mind know when to let go of something that has been superseded by something better. Yeah. And also know what to hang on to and know that that's an important point we're trying to make in the story. We got to keep this.
I mean, originally season 1
or find another way to do what that.
Yeah, we had in our brains for the longest time that season 1 was going to end with a sort of a faux, almost a parody of the throne room sequence of Star Wars, where it was actually through a whole weird set of circumstances, they end up saving the Emperor's life, and he has to award them the medals.
They do it in front of HoloNet cameras, so the whole galaxy sees Rowan save the Emperor, and the Emperor can't kill him because he knows, man, everybody saw this kid save me. So he has to give him an award. Give him a medal.
And it was all going to be roughly staged like how when Princess Leia gives the medals. And it was very funny to play with, and
ultimately wrong.
Ultimately, really a terrible idea.
And what we wound up with, which is so much better, and put us in a much better position for season 2, that came out of the writers' room. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, it's being flexible.
That's absolutely great because I love learning about just kind of the process of it, and one of the things that I enjoy about the series so much is just the sibling dynamic. So how do you kind of write those sibling moments and have them be organic, and do any of them kind of come from real life?
Rowan and Xander, to some extent, not completely, but to some extent, are based on my two sons. And my younger son is a hyperkinetic, short attention span, lovely child, full of energy and curiosity. His older brother is obsessed with cars, and can loves supercars, European supercars, Lamborghinis, Bugattis, all that stuff. So they came from those two were ripped from the pages of my life. Cordy, I think there's a little bit of each of our wives in Cordy. There's a little bit of there's a lot of Eddie Murphy and Beverly Hills Cop in Cordy. And you know the situation again. Getting back to the family thing, like,
by the way, like the board thing that came directly from Johnny.
Yeah, that came directly from my older son, the one who Xander's based on. But those words wound up in Rowan's mouth. So, you know, again, we knew we wanted it to be a family, and we wanted it to be, we wanted real love between these siblings. That as much as they can drive each other nuts, at the end of the day, they're a family, and, you know, they fly together, they don't fly at all, as they say in the show.
Right.
So, yeah, it you know, I'm trying to think, like, you know, beyond board, specific moments, and I don't know if it was there as much as just the inspiration and
the hugs was.
The hugs was, yeah. There's a moment in season 2 where Rowan is in trouble with his siblings and tries to hug his way out of it. That is something my younger son definitely tries to do.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has been informed by both of our families. And, yeah, and I think, you know, we very much wanted, thank you for saying what you said about them, because we did want it to feel very legitimate love between them, and have a different kind of tone to it, where there's some loving teasing, playful teasing, but it's not bickering and mean generally, I think.
Right.
One of the reasons why I think I find it's one of those shows where I can sit down with my two sons and you just kind of fall into watching it and enjoying it, because it is about family.
That's awesome to hear, because that was like our goal. We wanted this to be something moms and dads sit down and watch with their kids. And, you know, again, Bill and I are both parents. We've sat through some things with our kids that have left us scarred. We want to make sure that there was something that, you know,
let's have a less screamy show.
This is a show for everybody. You don't have to have kids to enjoy it. You can enjoy it with kids. Kids can enjoy it by themselves. But if they watch it with mom and dad, they may get even a little something else out of it.
Yeah.
And it's a family experience. I remember, you know, again, I can talk about Star Wars and how it relates to personal memories, but of family. I remember seeing it the very first time, A New Hope, with my mom. And this was back in May 77. And there was the moment where the mouse droid comes down the hallway, Chewie growls at it, and it runs away. And I remember my mom cackling out loud at that. And it was a moment I thought, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. I'm enjoying it as much as my mom is enjoying it. And, you know,
Right.
I had dragged her to movies that I'm sure she endured but didn't enjoy. So, yeah, like, that's when we hear that dads and moms are enjoying the show with their kids, that just, you know, that's mission accomplished. That was our goal.
So, and then just from a story perspective, just kind of close out a little bit, like, what character or characters would you love to have interact with the Freemakers that you haven't had a chance to? Given
where we set the one downside for where we set the show time frame wise was Han Solo's off the table.
Because he's in Carbonite.
we got a brief glimpse of him in Carbonite in season 1. Spoilers if you haven't watched season 2, but he's there at the very, very end.
It's reprising his moment in the dancing moment in Jedi.
Right, but I would love to see an adventure where our guys, you know, post Return of the Jedi, go on a little mini adventure with Han and Chewie. I would love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's...
Well, I mean, and then on that note, is there anything you can, you know, tell us about season 3?
Nope. We can't even tell you if there is a season 3. So,
but let's just say it would be fun to continue to see how they would cross paths. So that would be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and anyway, back to it too. I often wonder what would Obi-Wan have made of Rowan. I mean, I know he's gone now at the point that whatever, but I often wonder what would he have made of that kid. If he would.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think that's kind of funny. He's like, and I thought Anakin was a handful.
Hmm?
Yeah, he'd be like, and I thought Anakin was a handful.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, Bob, thank you so much for your time. Again, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed just talking about the show and hearing your perspective, and I love the animation process from start to finish. So I really appreciate you again taking the time out to talk to me about it.
Our pleasure, Darren.
Yeah, and thank you
so much.
Thank you for getting the word out about our show. We're very excited to be on yours, and
we should take one moment to plug all the places people can find it now that it's done on its airing on Disney XD. You can still find it on the Disney XD app. It's available on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon. So if you missed it on the air, you haven't missed it. There's plenty of opportunities to catch up.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna make sure I get that out there as well, because like I said, I love the show, so I have no problem telling people about it.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this. Is an honor for me, just especially as an animation fan.
That's awesome.
All right.
All right.
And there you have it. Once again, I want to thank Bill Motz and Bob Roth for taking time out of their busy schedules to talk to me about Lego Star Wars, The Freemaker Adventures on Disney XD. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I love the fact that fellow fans got to be brought into the Lucasfilm circle and are now making the things that we all loved growing up. So it was great talking to them, hearing their perspective on Star Wars, hearing how much they enjoy the universe itself and what they love about what they do, and how family is such a huge part of the series, and that's one of the things I enjoy about it. So definitely check out Lego Star Wars, The Freemaker Adventures if you haven't. You can find it everywhere. You can find it on Disney XD app. You can find it on Google Play, Amazon Prime, iTunes. Definitely check it out. It's a great show. It's worth watching. It's absolutely a great show to watch with your kids, especially like my two boys who love Lego, who love Star Wars, and love the blending together of the two. So you can definitely, once again, thank you for listening to the show. I really appreciate it. And you can find me on superpoweredfancast.com. You can follow me on Twitter at superpoweredfan. You can read my articles and reviews on Geeks Worldwide, www.thegww.com. And you can also listen and see me on YouTube every Wednesday night. Well, usually every Wednesday night, on a show that I'm a part of called the Geek Side Pod, and that's with my friends Will and Christina, and we talk about all things geek. It's a really great, really fun show. We have occasional guests. Hopefully we'll have some more coming up soon, but it's a really great show. You should check it out. It's on the Geeks Worldwide YouTube channel. So if you decide to, definitely give it a watch and let us know what you think. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you again for listening. The next episode should be coming up soon. I usually don't go too far in advance, but it's going to be the 30th episode, so I think I'm probably going to devote it to the 30th anniversary of Star Trek: The Next Generation, because it's one of my favorite shows. And even though my stepdad introduced me to the original Star Trek and we watched it together, like Star Trek: The Next Generation, first aired when I was 11, so that was my Star Trek. That's the one I kind of grew up on. So I'm going to talk a lot about STTNG and their 30th anniversary. So until then, this is Darren from the Superpowered Fancast saying, see you next time.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks Assemble!